From Studio A at the USC Annenberg School, this is Aditi Jain, your host from the Paradigm Podcast. Today, I'm joined by two incredibly innovative founders and friends of mine from SEP, an entrepreneurship organization at USC, Yin and Eason Tang. Last semester, they built Orbit, a platform that automates hotel and flight booking for tour managers. But they didn't stop there. They recently launched Mark, a $129 AI bookmark made from grade 5 titanium, designed to help you remember everything you read. Eason also serves as Director of Build at Troy Labs, where he helps accelerate some of USC's top startups. Welcome, Henry and Eason. Hi, Henry. Hi, Eason. Can you both briefly introduce yourself and kind of explain to us what got you into building and how you first got involved in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I'm Eason. I'm currently a sophomore at the IOB and Young Academy, and both Henry and I are in the same program actually, and we met on the same day. We met on the first day of school, and then we became like best friends, and so we always just been doing random projects, and we crack dick jokes, and so my fault. All right, anyways, so I came with like more of a design background. I started off with Blender and 3D animations, and so I started off doing a lot of music album covers and animated motion graphics. So that's what got me into USC, and I and in spring semester of freshman year, I realized I was like, damn, I don't want to do 3D animation only. I don't want to like only focus my skill set on that because I'm not gonna go anywhere with that profession, and like I'm not gonna make any money. I'm gonna be fucking broke. So I wanted to kind of pivot myself a little bit and expand my knowledge. So that's why I started learning a little bit more about like coding and wanted to learn more about entrepreneurship. And so that's why I joined Troy Labs and SCP in the fall. And that's also like where I worked on the first sort of startup with Henry, and as Henry can talk a little more on that. And so that led us later on to creating Mark.
Yeah, I'm Henry. I'm originally from Sydney, Australia, and so that's where I grew up. And yeah, I think like I came from more of a business background. It's always like, I don't know how to express that, but yeah, business background. I had a sneaker business back in high school. And yeah, so that was going from, selling on Instagram and Facebook to making a website. And then we had this physical pop-up store, which was quite cool. And yeah, I always say it was like a six-figure shoe business, like really fun. It was just a great experience. And then I actually had a podcast of my own back in high school.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was like a mental health type of podcast. But yeah, it was just like me and my mates talking, but opened up a lot of opportunities to talk with really cool people. Because you realize, I think, when you're building something, you kind of just have that really sweet excuse to just reach out to really cool people, and you have that opportunity to just hang out and talk with them. And so that's what I found there. So yeah, I guess that eventually brought me to college. My sister actually went to Georgetown, and she had a blast. So I think that automatically gave me an open, I guess, view that America is great. You have all these great opportunities. You can grow a lot as a person. And I think I always was fascinated more so by innovation. I think even back then, not even like I was interested in tech, but not necessarily. Yeah, and then I came across this program, the IOA, the Ivy and Young Academy, which Eason and I are both in. And that's, honestly, I feel like a very magical sort of program. Like people always say, oh, can you have a college experience where you don't really have exams? Just like do things like do drawings and do art, but then meet with a lot of cool companies, and I think that's exactly what we got. So that opened my, I think, eyes to this world of entrepreneurship, startups, and obviously there's a lot of really cool people in our program. A bunch of kids just dropped out, like some of our buddies, Teddy and Jackson, and they're working at places like Midjourney, Calix at Mercor. Teddy's working on his own company, and all of that I think was very inspiring to, I think, at least my own journey, and I feel like Eason and I's journey together. And yeah, we started building this project out of our club experience.
That's really cool. I really also believe in like the holistic like kind of like skill set, not just like honing in on one skill, like being able to think about every aspect when you're building something. And I too was, I'm a CS major, but like joining SCP really like taught me how to think about all aspects of building the business and the marketing. And so yeah, that's really cool, both of you guys. But a little bit for like our audience, what is Mark and what kind of inspired the idea for an AI powered bookmark?
Yeah. Okay. So Mark is a AI physical bookmark that summarizes the exact pages you read. So whether you're so we're focused on physical books. So say that you're reading 0 to 1 and you read from page 20 to 70, and Mark will be able to summarize the exact pages you read. So the next time you read again, you can pick up exactly where you left off. And so our vision is that we're creating the new Goodreads, and we're creating, and not only that, we're creating an entire new ecosystem for book readers. So think of it like Strava for book readers. So you have the physical smartwatch and the software. So we're creating both of those.
Yeah, and I suppose the idea birthed from both a problem that Issa and I both experienced, but also a passion for the space. So firstly, there's this problem. Issa and I both enjoy reading books. We want to dive a lot deeper into books. But what we found was that even in the moment when we're taking a lot of notes, really focusing, the next day when we're speaking with each other, we can't remember, interesting quotes or facts, let alone main ideas. So we thought it may just be one kind of glance at something, like a summary, to ingrain it in your head and kind of having that spaced repetition. And so that brought us to this idea. And this problem space of consumer products, especially hardware, is something I feel like is relatively untouched in this, I guess, startup entrepreneurship space. Everything you see on Twitter, everything you see on the news is all software, B2B things. And after a while, like that was something Ethan and I were building the semester before with our club. A thing called Orbit, an AI B2B tour management software for the music industry. And hypothetically, everything works. As you can see the clear steps of growth. But we thought, we're in college once. We want to do something significant while we're here, something explosive, something that we just enjoy. And so we thought, let's do this. And Ethan can touch more about it. But this idea of beautifully designed consumer products, that's something that we're both very excited about.
Yeah. And so I guess for us, definitely what Henry said, we just sat down on the table and we're like, you know what? We're not doing anything anyway, so let's just fuck it, and we're gonna spend the next month and just really focus on building this out and just ship out and see what it will look like if even get any traction, and we'll continue working on that after. But I think the whole like beautiful design product, it all derives from our love for like teenage engineering or like Braun, Deodoron. So like all of those like these designers and great brands, and they really inspire us to create beautiful products like that. And we feel like there hasn't been something like this like out in the market for a while. Everything is just everyone's so caught up to the AI agent or SaaS marketplace, and this is such like a underlooked space that we want to tap into, and just but I guess it all goes down to just creating something we are passionate about, and just creating something we love.
That's really cool. I like that you guys like, obviously you should build something that you really love, and I guess like founder market fit. So, building something for yourself first is really important. But what would you say were like some early challenges while building this, and like how did you validate the product? I guess you guys validated yourselves because you would use it, but like did you do any other forms of validation?
Yeah. So I think for us, to be honest, we didn't do an insane amount of market research or user research on like we have this like rough idea of what it would be. So it would be like the 25 to 35-year-old tech bros that work in New York or SF and who has money and happens to read would spend the money on this. But we didn't actually go into like having a whole user survey, conducting like a really comprehensive analysis. But I guess like the biggest hurdle that we had to go through is like believing in this, if this product will work or not, because it's such like a new idea, and like we went to a few what do we call it, Sundays, I guess.
Yeah, like presentation events.
Presentation events, and then people are like, okay, so if I can do the same thing on my phone, why do I need the hardware? And so that's something we really just had to believe in. And I'm good at making the 3D videos, motion graphics. I was like, you know what? I'm good at this, and Henry's good at marketing and like knowing how to tell a story. So we're just gonna send it out there, and it only takes about 2 weeks. Took us about 2 weeks, and if it doesn't do well, then it's a good portfolio piece. If it does, then we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I think in the beginning we both had this, you could say delusion, which I think is key to everyone building something. But I think what we've learned is that you can't really take advice from anyone. There's people who seem like they know their things, but even something like this, which is like a relatively new product, someone may have experience from like 10 years ago, but now like this new world, it may be something different. And so this new product, like early days, like Ethan said, the hardest thing was believing in ourselves, because constantly what we're taught, I think, in school and even in SEP is like, oh, get product market fit. It needs to solve a particular problem. But I guess you could argue a lot of the great things, like beautiful products in the world, and I don't know, maybe even like, could you say like an iPod or like different Apple products, or like teenage engineering doesn't necessarily solve a particular problem, but people love it. And so
And these there a lot of time you don't need to have a problem to solve. Like when you look at the entertainment industry, it's a luxury to have. It's not a fucking problem. So what we want to have that similar, do something similar where we are creating a premium luxurious product, and that we don't necessarily need to, we need to solve a problem, but it's a luxury. So we want to have that brand image as well.
Yeah, I mean, I totally relate to that. I think that right now in SCP, I'm also like exploring, kind of what space I want to enter, like whether I should do B2B or B2C. And I think that although a lot of B2C products don't really solve a problem, but for Snapchat, for example, doesn't solve a problem, but I still do use it every single day. So I kind of relate to the idea, if you think it's a good idea, I guess you should just risk it and go for it. And if it works, it works. If not, it's just a learning lesson. So yeah, that's a really inspiring story. But kind of just pivoting into the technical aspect of Mark. And since you guys are still in the early stages, what does the current prototype of Mark look like? And how do you plan to kind of detect where the user left off in a physical book and get that data into a system to send summaries to their device?
Yeah. We can quickly explain how the product works and then talk about where we're at. So the tech basically, here's how it would work. So say you start reading, I think Eason mentioned, say you start reading, say Atomic Habits. So you start reading from page 20. You'd read the physical book as usual. You'd flick through the pages and then say, all right, I'm done for the day. I'm on page 70. You would slide the Mark bookmark in, and on top of the Mark bookmark, there's a little screen and a little knob. And so with that, you'll set the new page number to page 70, and that's all you have to do. So those pages between 20 and 70 would get sent to your mobile device, and that would be synced to a PDF version of, say, Atomic Habits. And thus, a summary, just using AI, would spit out a summary of those exact pages, 20 to 70, and you would see that on your mobile device. And if you want to talk more about the tech.
Yeah, and then so where we're at right now is we have an early prototype, and over spring break, actually, Henry went back to China to look for manufacturers and factories. So we are in the process of talking to OEM, ODM companies. They're basically a company that design the hardware for you. So we're talking to them, and we are getting exact quotes from them and working with those companies to actually get more higher fidelity prototypes.
Yeah. Currently, we have a mobile app, a mobile app MVP to just test how it would work on a daily basis, and we have a hardware prototype as well. But yeah, we're very much focused on getting a more refined product, and with each iteration, get as close to the beautiful mock-up we have right now.
Yeah, that's very exciting to kind of see just the initial idea come to real life. Super excited for you guys. But I also saw that Mark allows you to share what you're reading or your reflections with others, also almost like a social layer on top of reading. So how are you thinking about building in the sharing or social features where users can send what they read or their reflections to others?
Okay.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of things you can play around with the social aspect of it. What we want to accomplish is the next Strava for readers. Strava started off with just very like bike enthusiasts, and then so like people that are really into biking, and then they later on expanded to more just fitness individuals. So that's what we want to do as well. We want to kind of target the um, prosumers who are like really deep in tech and happens to read, and later on expanding towards a more avid reader and people that read like self growth or like other types of fiction or books and that sort. And so we launched on Twitter, and so that gave us a really good amount of following and a community. So we want to keep growing that and to kind of grow our first batch of people that will use our product.
Yeah, and just this idea of community, I think with all brands it is very important. And like Eason mentioned for Strava, I don't know if you just mentioned that, but we trained for a half marathon together, and that was really key, I think, to our perception of Strava and our perception of what we want our product to look like. It helped us a lot just having that kind of social, is it pressure or encouragement to just keep on working. And I think that applies to the same thing with reading, where it's, I think it's a very personal task, but there's still a sense of pride when you say like, okay, I've read this many
Yeah.
pages, I've learned these things to your friends. And that entire community of, okay, self-growth and our motto for Mark is unlock your intellectual potential. And so I think that all comes back to our big mission, and that's the type of people we want to have in this community and the type of culture we want to foster.
Yeah, that's very cool. I feel like I used to like be part of a lot of book clubs in high school, and like that kind of encouraged me to read more, because like sharing ideas about like what you learn from the book or just like discussing a book like kind of encouraged me to read more. So I could totally like see people using Mark for like book clubs and stuff too. So obviously, do you think bringing a social element back into reading could help make the experience more engaging or communal again?
I think definitely, yeah. And then on top of like going back to Strava a little bit, when we were training for a half marathon and we were logging, and then we would run like a really hard workout, and then we would spend the time to post onto Strava, and it just feels almost like we're flexing to our friends that like, damn, we just ran 5 miles and you didn't, like if you don't want to be fat, like you better run tomorrow morning as well. So that's kind of like the sense of like community we created within like our like friend group. And so we want to kind of bring that back for reading as well. Like if you don't want to be stupid, like you better read. So I think definitely like starting with like smaller community of like friend groups, and then like keep building that into like the overarching big community.
Can I just add a quick point?
Yeah.
I think something similar to this idea of social reading exists in the form of Goodreads. So Goodreads, I think the main premise is that you can review books, and they actually have the feature of adding friends and seeing what your friends are up to. But the problem is that Goodreads, it's, I mean, outdated. You see like advertisements for it, and the UI, if you have seen, just feels very old-fashioned. And hypothetically, it works. There's no issue, but it's not really. There's not really anything new, and I guess kids nowadays, like I think that's what drives social media and tech forward. People aren't really on that, and so I think that all comes into mind on how we create this community.
Yeah, I think like especially like our generation really like focuses on like how the UI looks, or whether or not they'll be attracted to use a product. So I think that that'd be really cool if that was added in. But I used to be a big reader, but as I got busier, I like stopped reading regularly, or like I'd pick up a book and then like I'd forget what I read up to a certain point, just because my reading habits just got more sporadic growing up. So like kind of what do you think about like what's broken about reading today, and how does Mark fix it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, the past, I think, several years, with social media increasing, it feels like reading has decreased. But I suppose on the other end, what we found was that book talk. Book talk has been rising, and I think there is this bigger trend of reading. And I don't know if it's because we're in college and you're surrounded with older people, but there's more of an encouragement to read, and you realize that this is how you become a smarter human being. And I guess on that point of being different, you see that people believe that reading is going more digital, like we're in a more paperless world. But when you look at the stats, 65% of Americans still prefer physical paper books. And at least Eason and I, and everyone else we've asked around, people still prefer having that experience of flicking through paper versus looking at a screen. And there's not really any technology or any tools to help them besides manual. All right, after I read, okay, let me just take my time and then write everything out on a different notebook or something. And I feel like it's very unrealistic in the sense of you saying, oh, we're running out of time since we're in college, we're always so busy. And so that was a problem that we tried to attack to make this usual reading habit as seamless as possible, but still getting as much value from your usual habits of reading.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, reading, I feel like reading's the only time that I like to like disconnect from like the digital world and kind of just like like don't need to worry about notifications. Just kind of like just the paper and you. So I like that idea of just being able to like read a physical book. And I guess Mark. Stops the problem of having to like write down what you read up to. So yeah, that's really cool. But how do you envision Mark changing people's reading habits or even cognitive development? Like, do you think this could help people with like learning differences or memory issues?
Could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Like, how do you envision Mark changing people's reading habits or like cognitive development? Like, do you think it could help people with like memory issues or like learning differences?
Yeah, I think at the core we don't want to replace anyone's usual reading habits. So what we found is there's been apps which have come out. I'm sure you've seen like Instagram ads about them. For example, I think an app's called Headway, and they purely just give like 5-minute summaries of all these books. And hypothetically, you're like, wow, it saves me so much time. I don't have to read a whole book. I can just get all the main ideas. But there's something about sitting down, I think, enough time which has passed for your brain to fully understand like all these words on the page, and all these different examples and quotes and statistics, all of that, it helps you understand these main concepts, even if it's just a few that you end up taking away. And so we still think there's a very beautiful part about reading an actual book, but we just think there's an additional layer of potential that you could have with the addition of Mark. And so I think like cognitively, we still want people to remain strong in the sense of actually taking away what they read, but just having that additional idea here and there to remember, it helps you become a stronger human being in the long term.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I mean, since like ChatGPT came out, I feel like I haven't actually read a book or read like an article. I just like put it into ChatGPT, like summarize this into like 2 sentences, and I think that's really made me dumber in a sense.
Yeah.
So I like that Mark is kind of bringing back the old ways of actually like reading a book and kind of like not like killing your attention span. So that's really cool. So now we'll take a little 5-minute break and we'll come back in a bit. Okay, we're back from the break. So let's dive more into like the ethical aspects of Mark. Do you think there's a danger of kind of becoming too reliant on AI for retention, memory, or even like planning?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned earlier, you feel like when you're relying on ChatGPT, you feel dumber because you don't want to take up as much effort. And so I think tying back to our main mission of unlocking intellectual potential, we don't want to obviously make human beings step backwards. And so that's why we're stressing people should still read physical books. Like just the full length of flicking through a piece of paper, flicking through pages, and actually sitting down, spending maybe several hours reading at a time. And this is only to aid it. But yeah, I get what you mean. I think technology in general, like, it makes you and your brain work less. Say the introduction of the iPhone, a computer. Back then, I think, what they said, like taxi drivers, they would remember everything on these thick books of maps. But nowadays, you don't really need to do that, and that's because your brain just doesn't really need to.
Yeah.
And I think that's just an evolution, like, way of humans adapting because you don't really need to do things. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a bummer, but
I mean, I think it's inevitable. Like, there's like, people use notes apps, reminders, alarms. So it's like, like people don't really remember doing things on their own. So they're already relying on AI. But I kind of like that, Mark is reminding them to read physical books and kind of, use their own brains rather than just like, asking ChatGPT to spit out a summary of a book. So yeah, that's very cool. And kind of like diving into more of like the legal considerations with this. So given that every physical copy of a book can like differ slightly, and with PDFs or ebooks like often being protected, how are you thinking about navigating copyright or access issues when it comes to extracting content for features like summarization and syncing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so far, currently, what we're doing is we are scanning every book. We're using Google Book API, and so by scanning the ISBN, which is a barcode on the back of your book, it will know exactly what edition, what book it is. So that gets out of the way of not being the book not being the right edition, where it doesn't have the right page number or anything. But in terms of copyright, so far we're using OpenAI's API for more of the MVP version to kind of test out for our users and to see what are some other features we need or need to take away to really have that good experience for the user. But later on, we want to partner up with other book publishers, and so we can get access to their database of books, and so we can fine tune our model to create a more personalized summary for the user.
Sure, that's very cool. Are you in talks with any like companies to kind of get their like data for like books and stuff?
Currently, we're still developing more of a prototype stage to really understand the user. We've had a lot of interest from the announcement video, but interest doesn't directly correlate to traction. So we really want to understand our user. That we want to spend the time to understand our user, and by the time we're actually producing, we know exactly how much we're going to sell and who we're going to sell it to.
yeah, and I think it's absolutely just a matter of time till we get to that phase. For example, like I mentioned, apps like Headway, they're able to have access to all these books as well, and I think they've done pretty well. So it's a matter of time for us to make these partnerships happen. And like Steve Jobs, initially when they started with iTunes, the purpose of that was that they would partner with all these different major music publish platforms. And that was something really kind of unheard of, but obviously he made that happen because he explained very well how they're going to benefit, obviously how Apple's going to benefit, and that kind of changed the music industry. So Eason and I have no doubt that
Yeah.
this can be something formulated because it genuinely just benefits the entire population reading experience.
Yeah, no, definitely think like if you have a vision and you're solving a problem and you know exactly what you're selling, then you guys like totally will get a lot of partnerships. And yeah, so now kind of like pivoting more into like your founding journey. What was your first product, and have you always known you wanted to be founders?
Yeah, so I guess for us, our first real startup product was the startup that we worked on in SCP, which is the AI B2B SaaS product for tour managers. The long story long is that it's a app. It's a service for music tour managers to book logistics at bulk, so it's easier for them to book all the hotels when they're on tour. So that was our first product, but it didn't go the way we wanted to because it's a very technical heavy product and with not too many technical heavy founders. So, but for us, like we always, at least for me, I always knew that I didn't want to work in a corporate setting, and I always wanted to create something I love, and I have the goal that like when I'm like older, like 30, 35, I have the freedom to do whatever I want to do, and that in turn entails like money, and I want to be able to be at that stage. So having my own startup or company is what I need to do to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, this idea of agency is very special And firstly, I think being able to leave an impact on the world, that it's your name and you know that this didn't exist before, say a few months, a few years down, but just before. So like I was talking to Eason and about this idea of having this launch of impacting 7.4 million people with our launch. It's crazy that just a couple months before, that this wasn't a thing in the universe, and we were able to create that.
Like 300, we thought we were comparing it to like Tone, which had 360K views, and then the other one, which is Context. Context AI had 3.4 million views when they launched. So we thought that was like the highest caliber we'll ever reach, because they're such a good production. The team is just so good, and that's who we were comparing it to.
Yeah. So yeah, just kind of blew it out the water. And yeah, this founder journey, I think it is very tough. There's still so many obstacles that we've yet to reach. This whole experience has been really quite hard. A lot of obstacles that I think either of us have never faced before, and it just keeps on coming. But I think the result and the output of what we have makes everything worth it.
Mm-hmm. And at USC, like a lot of time we work on project. A lot of people talk about 0 to 1, and at USC we make all the different products all the time, and it's a lot of time it's from like 0 to 0.2, and then constantly we're just keep going back and forth doing the 0 to 0.2, and we're getting super good at creating the product and launching it, but nothing after. So for us, we're first time founders, and we want to we're going through like the 0.2 to 1, and this process is like we're kind of just doing one step at a time and see where things leads to, and it's exciting.
No, yeah, it's totally relatable having like obstacles. Like currently, this is my first semester in SCP, so we're also like building our product, and every day it's a struggle, being a startup founder. But I think like what is driving me and motivating me to keep going is kind of just like being able to leave a real world impact, and I think that's a lot of people, it's a driving factor for them. So yeah, and kind of for our listeners, SEP is a startup incubator at USC, where 18 students are selected each semester to work on a startup and pitch to judges at the very end at Demo Day. So how did SEP shape your thinking around building and execution?
Yeah, SEP is sick. Like genuinely, it's sick. Show the glaze, right? No,
Crazy
it's
glaze.
like genuinely. So I first came in first year freshman year. Yeah, Eason was here as well. I think we were sitting next to each other. Our buddy, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Our buddy Ashwin was pitching, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were sitting next to each other. Yeah. And it was incredible. Like the fact that these were just kids our age in university, speaking so well and pitching these ideas that they came up with and worked so hard in front of a panel of judges who were just grilling them with questions. I was so inspired. And so the following year, I applied, and thankfully we both got in. And honestly, I had very high hopes for it, because a lot of really inspiring people who have come out and have done really amazing things were in that club. But throughout that experience, I actually learned so much. And I've also been in a consulting club, and like not to like trash talking or anything, but
the anti-glaze,
yeah,
right?
show the anti-glaze. But I think consulting clubs, and I don't know what the actual consulting world is like, but at least within the club, I think you hit a threshold, a ceiling pretty quickly, because everything you do, like Eason mentioned, you're only proposing from point like 0 to maybe 0.1.
Yeah.
But you have no stake in it. You're not forced to figure out the problem and come up with a solution. With consulting, it's like, okay, how do they have more growth or something? Okay, I'm gonna recommend marketing and have social media influencers, and you just say it in front of people. No one really cares what happens after you give that presentation, make it look pretty. Okay, sweet, good job, you're done.
There's no responsibility.
No, absolutely not. But with SEP, you figure out things that you never even considered previously, and you have all these components of, will it work on a business sense? Will people pay for it? It's got to look good. How would the tech fit into it? And things like inputs, outputs, all of these things, you got to kind of use your brain a whole lot more. And that was a great first introduction to obviously what we're building with Mark. If we didn't have that project of learning from these great mentors we had, Calix, Charlotte, and Tamaz, shout out.
Shout out.
We wouldn't have been where we are now with Mark and had the courage or the experience to do everything we have now. So I think we've grown a lot, and it's actually incredible. So
It is.
really recommend.
I remember when it was my new member welcome dinner, all the actives were kind of pitching what they were working on, and I was just listening, and I was just so inspired, and I was honestly super excited to get started with my own product. So yeah, I think like being surrounded by such talented, cracked people who are constantly like building, and what I really like is like the actives continue to build even after their semesters, like you guys. So I think just being in that environment, having constant support, advice, coffee chatting, like insane people that I probably wouldn't have if I wasn't in SEP. I'm gonna stop with the glaze. But yeah, I think it's super cool. How do you think your approach changed from Orbit to Mark?
Yeah, I think after SCP, the original thought was that we would continue Orbit and keep working on it. And over winter break, that's what we did. And we tried to stay on top of it and have tasks every single week and get things done. We got somewhere, but it was just really hard to coordinate between 4 people, let alone none of us has done similar things before. And none of us were very technical. So it was just a very hard thing for us to do. And so coming into school the next semester, we were still working on it. It was going slow, and I remember I was making the new front page of Orbit, and then Henry came up to me and he was like, "Yo, I got this idea. What if you make a bookmark?" And I was like, "What the fuck?" And then but then he explained the idea, and I was like, "Oh shit, this could be lit. Like, yo, what if like we say fuck it and we sell for like $500?" And then and then he was like, "Damn, I had never thought about this before. Trying to like dip Orbit and then let's work on this." And I was like, "Nah, that's like I gotta finish Orbit first." Yeah. But then he was like, timing is a really important thing when it comes to starting a company or starting anything. And now looking back in retrospect, it is timing is really important. And there are times like say that we started Mark like 2 years ago before like any of the AI hardware thing popped up, like Humane Pin, Rabbit, like without these predecessors. Is that the word? Yeah. Anyways, and then them like blowing up with the hype, we probably wouldn't got anywhere. So it like timing was really important. And if we like done it like now, when like a few months later, like the wave has started going like lower, and then it's like a new trend is popping up, then like we're not shit anymore. Yeah. So we're like, you know what, let's fuck it, let's build it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this, I think experience was very key. Eason and I, like I mentioned, we gained a lot more courage and I think trust in each other and ourselves, that you know what, the advice that we're given, not everybody is correct. Some people may have done amazing things, but they don't really understand what you're doing or what you have. Because yeah, I mean, first semester we took every I think we were asking a lot of questions to these mentors we had, which was great, and it kind of molded us to kind of understand the world. But at some point you realize, you know what, you have to make up your own mind. You have to have your own stake in these things. So what we found a lot is we would ask for advice, we'd listen to it, maybe we'd disagree, and then go a different direction. And things like taste and great design, it's something that if we think makes sense, we're just gonna run with it. And even some professors who have like years of experience, we've realized we can challenge what they're saying. They might have incredible knowledge, but that may be from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And right now we're in this new space where we, as I think grown-ups now, we have to navigate it and figure it out on our own.
Yeah, and then it's the saying that you're only doing well when you're having fun, and I think that really stuck to us. When we were creating the product at first, we were listening to different people giving us advice, and we're like, okay, maybe we should follow what they're doing, and because they've done it before, but that's not really who we were and not what our vision work. So trying to like constrain ourselves into like their vision is like it really tore both of us apart. So it was like when we started thinking about what is our vision and how do we bring this product to market, that's when we realized like our vision was it might not be the right one, but it was the one that made us felt the best, and that in return created the best product.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of like great founders that have like insane companies now got advice from a lot of people, but you know they did what they wanted, and now they're like, you know, super successful. So I think like even now with like myself building an SEP, like I'm talking to a lot of people, like listening to the advice. But I mean, our team pivoted like, you know, a lot of times, and we only have a month until demo day, and we kind of just landed on an idea. But I think if you like the idea, you should just totally go in and like build. But yeah, I think that, you know, you should just take what sometimes people say with a grain of salt, because if you think it's a good idea, just fuck it, build it. Like, you know, what you guys are doing, it's insane.
Can I just like add one really interesting thing I saw the other day?
Yeah.
The founder of Netflix, he was giving this keynote, and he said he's previously started 7 companies, and the only one that really people knew was obviously Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was saying was that if, you know, years ago, you would ask him which one of these would be successful, he said, I would have absolutely no idea. He didn't know that Netflix was going to be the one. It could have been these 6 other ones. But that's like the kind of thing of you don't really know until you try. And people have different opinions. Investors have different opinions. And you always see stories like, oh, I missed out on 100 investors rejected me, but it became successful anyways. I feel like no one really knows that shit at all.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure it out on your own, and I guess, yeah, say fuck it and try it out.
Yeah. And then when you look at it in the longer lifespan of, you know, like a month, like we've been doing this for 2 months maybe, and then so 2 months?
Now?
Yeah.
I think 3 now.
Okay, 3. So 3 months now. But when you look at it, when you like expand the, when you like look at it from your life, like you have like 80 years to live, and 3 months is nothing, and you spend 70 days to just work on something you like, and if it doesn't go well, then you have a good portfolio piece. Not then, if it does well, then, you know, it might change your life.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, talking about like going big, you recently went viral on X, 7.4 million views, and like,
Huge.
and Henry, you told me you heard from major like industry voices too, like they commented on your videos, reached out to you guys. How did that kind of feel? And do you have any advice for someone who wants to build but is afraid of failing?
Also, shout out to Digital Frontier. We just have our first article published today. They're a UK-based news publication. Yeah, so
Check it out, guys.
Yeah, I think like a first legit article where they actually interviewed, and we kind of gave our own thoughts, and so they had like Eason Tang, Henry, and Mark,
Wow,
and
that's so
which
official.
was very cool.
Yeah.
very surreal.
Yeah, and then we had like Gizmodo and Hacker News, and like they just like wrote stuff about us.
Oh wow.
And
anyways,
sorry, show the flex. No, it was
Well, you know, you guys totally
it was
should.
very surreal.
Yeah.
Like so surreal.
Yeah.
We have videos of us just jumping up and down.
It was like the first hour after launching, and then we reached like 10K views, and we're like, holy fuck, like it's crazy. And then the next hour it went up to 100K, and then we're like, holy shit, like we gotta take photos, and then like, and so we started like having like a photo shoot and stuff, and then like, but then it's like for the rest of the day, like I feel like both of our like heart was just pounding. We're just like, holy shit, like it was so overwhelming that you just feel like overstimulated with everything. Like every second you open up the phone, the view count go up by 100K, and you're just like, dude, what the fuck? Yeah. And then I think it was the next day, we were like studying the room, and then we were playing. Okay, so there was one thing we were doing is like every for every like 1K followers, when like every like 1 million views, we would play like the Fiend. Play Fiend, and then
like
once
Travis
it turns,
Scott?
yeah.
That's so valid.
That's not a story.
Do you have a video?
Yeah,
no video.
Oh, okay, no video.
No, we don't have a video.
Cut this part out. Anyways, but and then so it was like every time it was just like Fiend, And then but yeah, anyways,
That's
It was
so high.
really sick.
but yeah, it was just like very overwhelming, and we didn't really know what to do. And so definitely after that, we got a lot of people reaching out. Like we had The Verge and like some other like news public, and then it was like Apple Insider, uh, yeah, Apple Insider, and then they all reached out, and then so it was like, we're like, holy shit, like this is like huge. And I think in the month of March we had about 50 to 60 calls, and it was just all like
Absurd.
yeah, it was absurd. It was just like different people like telling everyone about what is Mark, and they're like, oh, like what's your vision, like that. And so I think in a way that was quite really overwhelming, and we honestly like we didn't really know what to do. Like I was like at one point I was just laying on the ground. I was like, all right, let me breathe.
Let me touch grass.
Yeah, and like we were turning off our phone and like just like letting it sit. Um, but after all of like this whole hype and this whole wave went away, and then it really got to the question of what now? We've gotten this view. We don't want this to just blow away, and we want to really. This is an opportunity that we're probably not gonna have in a while. Hopefully, it will be again. But we really wanted to take on this opportunity and make something happen. So then I feel like it got very stressful for both of us. Like, what the fuck do we do now? None of us like we've done these type of like marketing videos, but none of us knew how to actually bring it to market. And so a lot of learning stuff there, and it's just all these stuff piling on top of each other, like filing for a company, getting prototypes, hiring people onto the team, maybe dropping out, working on this full time, and going to China and talking to investors, and all of this thing just piled on top of each other. So I think that was just like the kind of like the aftermath. But now that in April, I think we spend a month of having all this like talks and like thinking like a lot of talks, and so we've decided what the actual timeline is going to be like, what our actual goal is, and so we've set the goal of April to be a month of product development and fundraising. So with that, we felt like now that we actually have a clear vision on what this is going to be like, we have the bigger goal and what are the smaller steps to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this experience has been so jam-packed. And Eason and I, throughout just these 3 months, we've grown so much. We were talking, we were reflecting, what did we actually do in the month of March? It feels like we didn't really do anything, but like Eason said, we were on so many calls, and it doesn't really feel like legit work, but I think it's something that we might get returns maybe later down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think our first call wasn't bad, but we spoke not as well as we do now. We complement each other really well. When we're pitching something, Eason would say something, I'd say something, it would be bang, 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 bang. And yeah, this entire process, like how we communicate with people, our organization skills for the tasks we do, and how we tell and pitch this inspiring story, we've gotten so much better, and I'm really proud of our team. It's actually really sick.
Our team hasn't just won, right?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe the Glazer.
Oh, you
Okay.
guys are so
Anyways,
cute.
but yeah, and we have like a whole Notion thing. Like now we know exactly what to do after each meeting, and like what are the right protocols, and so it gotten a lot better, and so more to come on that. And but yeah, and then in terms of next question about like someone who's like scared to fail, for that I think definitely for us. Before launching, the week before launching, I was we were both wrapping up making the video on the website. We're staying up super late, like pulling all-nighters, just like fixing bugs, and like the videos doesn't look right, and stripping apart like half of the videos and restarting. And that like one part is being stressed out, like damn, like this is almost done, like we can launch this. But then it also comes to the realization that we're actually launching this to the public, and before launching, we sent to like 60 some people, or that could just like and repost our video the moment we launch, and we were like, damn, this is like getting real, and like we're actually like making this stuff happen. It's not just a passion project anymore. And so then obviously comes the question of the worry, the concern that what if this doesn't pop off? we just ask 60 people to like our thing, and what if they're the 60 only people that like our thing? Then like we're low-key a fucking embarrassment, and like I just like that has.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to him. I was like, damn. Like I was calling him at like 12. I was like, yo.
Like the night before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I also got dinner with this other guy, and he was like, yo, y'all should do like pay waitlist. Da, da, da. And like just giving like all these like sort of advice that's really valuable, but it's just like mess up your kind of flow. You're like, holy shit, like you're
Maybe we should do that instead.
Yeah,
it's like a night before you're like overwhelmed with all these thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just double thinking about everything that you've been doing. Like, damn, this website doesn't like. I want this to look better. When I got this video, like, I don't like the text, but like, it's just all this sort of things. But I think that all went away like when we launched because like, I feel like for us it got bigger than just wanting this to go big, but it's more just like it's like a milestone that we made this product, and it's even if it doesn't pop off, but it left a spot on the internet that like this is what we did, and if it doesn't pop off, we're just gonna do it again and make it, and then and then do it the right way again, and then so I think for people that are scared to fail, I think it all goes down to the mindset that like if you're just think about it, you're putting in 30 days of just very intense learning and building. It's whatever comes out of it is what it is, and you can have many 30 days, and if you look at it in a whole year, you're building 12 products, and so it's all just like all this like little sprints. I feel like is if we're thinking about it that way, it makes it a lot less stressful about failing.
Yeah, totally. I think, yeah, I mean, I can imagine how overwhelming the whole, like, blowing up on Twitter can be just as, like, college students. But that's really cool that you kind of got that platform. And I can see how you guys are, like, overwhelmed because it's like, wow, we went big. Now we need to build on top of that. But, yeah, I think that's really good advice to just, like go like a little small steps. And if I don't know if you guys went to the fireside chat with like Sean Rad, the founder of Tinder, but he was basically like just work on building something today. Like don't plan like 10 years ahead. Just like build today, and if it blows up, if it's big, if it's life, like if it's making an impact, like people will use it. But yeah, how do you decide what ideas are worth building? Do you have kind of any thoughts on that? Or just like, I'm also like currently in the middle of like customer discovery myself and trying to figure out what an MVP should look like. So it's tough to know like, when to stop iterating and just launch. Like, when did you know when you should like launch just the video itself? I mean, the video is beautiful. But like, how did you know that? And like, what's your take on MVPs and when it's good enough to kind of launch?
I think what comes to mind is this idea of priorities and your purpose. So this is something that Wells, he was also in ROA, he made this article July was telling us when we were having doubts about Mark. And he said that, is this project you're building, are you trying to make money? Is this just a fun passion project that you guys enjoy? Is this going to be a career? Are you trying to raise a shit ton of money? And I think that comes back down to like, should you pursue something? So for Mark, for us, we thought it would be cool if we had, say, interest, likes, money, if we could launch this into an actual company. But at the core, this was just something ambitious and fun that we enjoyed. Let's just keep on doing this and see what happens. And it turns out, I mean, it was something that we both wanted as a product. And two, I think it aligns with our mission of and our values of, okay, we can probably leave an impact on the world with this product. And so that, I think, keeps on driving us today with Mark. But for, I guess, other people, it might be, if it's just for fun, yeah, why not? Just keep sending it. Like, who cares what people think? Like, you're only on this world once. Let's just do something for fun. And in terms of money, I think that comes down to, yeah, I guess it's like product market fit and whether you have audiences, customers who are willing to pay for your product. And that's the more standard business fundamentals of following what you're taught in class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of like pivoting more into the future, what's the long-term vision for Mark? Do you see it evolving beyond books?
Yeah. So for Mark, the long-term vision is that we are building a whole suite of product. So there are Mark 1, Mark 2, and then so we want to start off by really building out the vertical of book reading and memory retention. But we also want to expand to different verticals. And so the goal is that we're creating this whole suite of hardware products that are premium, luxury, and are integrated with the latest tech. But they are so when people think about Mark, they think about like it's kind of like Apple. It's kind of like a really ambitious like vision for it, but we want like it's like how Apple have all these like different hardwares, but they end up having like a whole like ecosystem. So we want to do kind of the same thing with all of these like different hardware products. So that is the long-term vision.
Yeah, we're still ideating on what the future product line looks like. Like you said, mentioned vertically in books and horizontally in other consumer products.
That's cool. Kind of just like, I guess Mark, but are there any other products you're kind of back of your mind that you're itching to build, or is it just like all hands on Mark and like kind of just focused to Mark's, just like ideas or anything? Yeah.
I think for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, like
Yeah.
just kind of on that point of vertically building. Yes, there's paper books, but there's also such a broad range of opportunities. Yes, we can also help ebook readers and also audiobooks.
Oh yeah.
So there's a broad range and also different sectors of not just like usual recreational leisure time reading, but perhaps educational or like say in a work setting, like how you intake information. There's a broad range, and right now we're exploring how we can help these different facets of reading.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so now we're gonna pivot more towards like advice. So Eason, you're like the director of build at Troy Labs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your role as director of build, and how do you help USC founders grow?
Yeah. So I do build at Troy Labs, and so Troy Lab itself, it has two programs, and so it has the build, like the startup program, and you also have the internal member program. So the internal members, there are students that are divided into 5 departments of design, marketing, PM, tech, and VC. So, and there's another with the startup program where different startups apply, and so they will go through Troy Labs as an accelerator, and the students will help out each startup. So what I do is I interview all the startups, and I kind of make the teams of the students and who will actually work on each startup. So when we look at, I'm also working with my co-build director, which is Connor. Like, shout out. Anyways, so when we look at the startups, we really look at their kind of where they're at and how can they grow. And so we look for startups that have an existing MVP and they know exactly what they need out of the 8-week accelerator program. And so currently we have a company like Bowl Snacks, Impeccable Chicken, Resonant. And so these companies, they all have like super big thing lineup, and we really believed in like we want to really believe in the founders. So when we interview them, we want to see how committed they are to the project, to their startup, and what is their vision for the 8 weeks. And we try to bring in speakers every single week. Yesterday we had the founder of Spice Rack. They're a lingerie company, but the founder is super cool. She's backed by Sequoia, and so she has a lot of experience in startups. And so so she did a talk, and then we did a little roast session with the presentations. And so different week we want to bring in different speakers from different industry. And another one to highlight is Ryan Honey. He's the founder of Buck and Residence, which is basically the biggest design studio in the world. And so he came in, gave a talk, and so we really want to help the founder with networking and also getting advice from actual industry people.
I mean, that's very cool that these people that are wanting to build their own startups have this environment, and it's very cool how like a lingerie founder came. I think you should listen to a lot of like voices to kind of build like a holistic profile of yourself, and not just like focus on like B2B SaaS people coming in. But yeah, that's really cool. So kind of like wrapping things up, like do you guys like what have you learned as a student founder? Because I think that like people on this podcast, a lot of them are like older, like people that older startups. But as a student founder, you have very like insightful like advice. So what would you say you've learned as a student founder, and like just like two like pieces of advice for anyone out there who's like wanting to build something? And you obviously said with like they're wanting to build something but they're too scared to fail. Just work in like iterations. But just like a general two pieces of advice, or what have you learned yourself as student founders?
I'll say one, and then you go one.
All right, 1 for 1, right?
I relax. Yeah, Ben for Ben. So
GDP.
I relax. Yeah, so at the core, you build a lot more courage and confidence in yourself, and it helps, of course, when you have these little milestones and pieces of validation that what, thumbs up, you guys may be doing a good job. And I think that's for good reason, because in the beginning, I think especially for me, I believe, doubted myself and feel like, damn, I don't know if this is possible. But one step at a time, at least for myself, I find myself growing in a lot of ways. I've become more confident in speaking with people, and how you express ideas. I think you can come off at least a little bit. I feel like I can sound more inspiring nowadays. And that's something I'm quite proud of, at least within myself. And working in a team, I think we've gotten a lot better. At least I think, the two of us, how we communicate with each other, it's like a lot more. I don't know. It's just better. Like,
Yeah.
Eason can say something, I'll be like, okay, cool. Or like I might say something, Eason might disagree, and then we talk about it. All right, and then come to a solution, and.
Yeah, and then like how we separate like business with like pleasure. Not
Yeah, basically.
Business
With
with
friendship.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then so we separated by like by WhatsApp and messages. That's something like we got advice from, and then we think it's a really good way to kind of separate the work life and the work and life. And so on WhatsApp, we strictly talk about like Mark and what are the actual things we need to do. And on text messages, just dick jokes and whatever. But like it's just like random shit. So I think that was a very good advice we got, and I think it helped us so far. And I think for us, one of the biggest thing that I took away during this process is like you really have to be proud of yourself on like what are the accomplishments you've made. A lot of time when for me when we launched the video, and we're like, okay, so like now what? And then we look back on the month of March, we didn't do anything, and you start like having all these like doubts about yourself, and like we didn't do anything right, and this could be done better, or how do we improve this? But when you really reflect on like all the little things you've done, like you've came a long way. You started off from literally nothing and building out this product to where you're at right now. That took a lot of grit or perseverance, and so I think just reflecting and be proud of yourself on like all the progress you've made, and that can really set yourself up a good foundation that like what you're capable of, and you can really build something great, and you can feel good about yourself when it's like not things are not going well, and you have the confidence that you will go up again.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And me personally, like, I remember when I first like came to USC, even I had a lot of imposter syndrome because everyone's like super cracked. But I think just going one step at a time and knowing that everyone's learning too, along with you. Some of them might be like more ahead than you, but they all started at some place, so you will end up being just as good or better. So yeah, just like not. Like I think remembering that everyone faces imposter syndrome is like important, and yeah, I also like how you guys like separate your messages as like work-life balance. Very very severance of you guys.
The Audis, right?
What the? I don't know. What do you say?
Did you watch?
Nah.
Bro,
Watch what?
The Severance.
I haven't watched.
I watched the first episode, but I kind of know it's just like.
Show the spoilers, yeah.
Nah, it's not. It's like the Audis and the innies.
No, I
The
don't know,
inners.
mate. I don't know, mate.
Alright, anyways.
Okay.
Wait, can I say one more thing that just came up to me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, my fault.
No. So like, what I realized is that this startup world and all of this, and if you're really deeply ingrained in it, it gives you opportunities that but if you didn't do this, you would have no idea existed. So that was something we saw firsthand with our great buddies Jackson and Teddy. We always talk about them because they were really inspiring because they made this AI wearable with Tone the year before us. And after that, obviously they had a bunch of views, but they had the big opportunity to work at Midjourney, which is this incredible AI company. And yeah, like of course, it's like, that's something you can't really apply for. Like, what do you mean you're 18, 19 years old, you're dropping out of school to work at the leading AI company in the world where PhDs or people who have gone to school for years can't even, get their foot through the door in.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I guess like even for us, like talking with some incredibly smart people who have just reached out to us and were like, we think this is really cool. Are you free to chat? Like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
It's
I'd
like,
love to chat. Yeah.
It's like if you never went in the Willy Wonka factory, you would never know there's Loompa Doompa.
Oompa
Loompa.
Loompas.
Loompa Loompa.
Oompa Loompas.
Oompa Loompa.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah,
I get the idea.
Yeah,
that's a vision.
Yeah, and then we had this. We had the opportunity, I guess like, we had this opportunity to talk to a couple of these like really cool companies who were, I guess, interested in potentially like giving us jobs, and just the idea of that is it's crazy. The fact that we just did something we loved, and people kind of see you and appreciate you for the, I guess, creativity, like work ethic, whatever they see in us. That's pretty spectacular versus the standard path of, you say like networking, writing emails, because I found myself doing that maybe like, I mean definitely before, and you realize that even that itself takes so much time of just trying to talk to people and having the surface level conversations. And if you think the amount of time you're doing on that, and if you're spending that on say a project, you could be a Steve Jobs. And it's just a bummer. I think a lot of kids, a lot of the really smart kids, what Ashwin was saying, like they go into finance consulting, but they're not spending their time trying to change the world. And yeah, a quote by Teddy was like, he hates networking. He believes that if you're great enough, you attract the opportunities. And I think that's really true. We definitely found that.
Yeah, I think cold emailing, just like applying to jobs, it doesn't really work in this day and age. Like if you have a good idea and if it's like really impactful, like totally, I think like opportunities will follow, but obviously like money and fame will follow too if that's something that you want.
And then adding on top of that is like, definitely along this process, and we've gotten a lot of different opportunities. And so I think one thing we learned is that like you shouldn't be afraid to turn down offers and opportunities, because like and really sticking to what you believe in. And all these opportunities might sound really good and very like attractive, but you really need to know like what you want out of this. It's like Jimmy Butler like getting like hella opportunities, but like he knew he wanted to be in the Warriors.
I don't know much about basketball, but yeah, totally.
Feel that, bro. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Like.
Yeah.
Like you should know when to buy Tesla stock.
No, it's like. You should say the quote.
I don't know what the quote is.
Was it not? Was it like buy high, sell low?
Something like that.
Wait, no.
Alright, let's get back to business.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anyways.
back to business.
What
But
was it?
anyways,
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
That was the Tesla quote was like, does it make sense in this case? It doesn't make sense in this
No.
scenario.
Okay.
No, okay, wait. The context was like, the Tesla stock is like, when it's at like $100, no one will buy them. But when it's at like 325,
Like
everyone's going in.
Yeah. Totally. I don't know how this
Yeah.
relates to this.
Totally
Wait, that was-
resonate, bro. Totally resonate.
No, yeah.
I was just giving the context.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thanks for that. Thanks, the
Thanks,
audience
yeah.
really appreciates that. But anyways, that was some really good advice from both of you guys. And as student founders and personally, someone that's just getting into the entrepreneurship space, that was some really good advice. So thank you guys for that. And it was just an inspiring conversation in general. Henry, you've gotten better at talking more. Okay,
Sorry.
being
Alright,
more
thank you.
inspirational.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you for joining us, Henry and Eason. And to our listeners, if you're curious about Mark, check them out at mark.engineering or on X, where they got 7.4 million views. So you could be the ones on top. But until next time, keep questioning the paradigm.
Yep.
Yup.